Hi guys, Aka here. So, we want to take a look at Zhou Yu, the new world general that is having everyone call their bankers to ask if they can take out a second mortgage. For this guy, whether you want to get him as an assistant or the main general, paying 400 or 450 for him, or 16,000 or 12,000 or whatever the calculation is, the question is this guy worth getting? Okay? Not is he worth the money? Because I think we all know the answer to that already, right? The question is he worth getting, and how good is he as a world general? So that's what we're going to do now. The comparison for world generals is a bit more complicated than our usual comparisons. So for this one, I'm going to switch over to the spreadsheet. Okay? All right, guys. So we are on the spreadsheet here. And for this comparison, these are the generals that we're going to be looking at. Okay? So we have Takenaka here, Leo, William Marshall, George Dewey, Isaac Brooke, Leonidas, and Zhou Yu. Now, as you know, these are world generals. So we're going to break down the comparison based on each of the various troop types and see which one is the best among them. All right, so let's get to it. So right here, we have the stats for the generals when they're the main general, okay? And these ones are for siege. So as you can see from the attack stats right here, the top guy that we have here is Takenaka, which is cool. Leo is doing pretty okay. And then we have Zhou Yu here at 137. So that would mean that amongst the main generals, Zhou Yu is coming in second for siege attack. Okay, for siege defense, yeah, he's doing well, tied with Takenaka there, okay? And for HP, he's looking like the best for HP, beating out Takenaka a bit. Overall, looking at these stats, I would still say that Takenaka is the best general for siege, okay, where you take everything into account. And note, these stats are including Zhou Yu's Covenant as well. The other generals, with the exception of Isaac Brooke, do not have covenants. But Zhou Yu and Isaac Brooke have covenants, and these stats are factoring them in. Okay, so that's it for siege. Now, we have the stats for mounted here, all right? And we're looking at it. Mounted attack, Zhou Yu is doing very well on there. For mounted defense, he's okay. Takenaka is looking the highest here. And for mounted HP, he's doing okay. Isaac Brooke leading them out there. But all in all, Zhou Yu is also looking pretty decent on the mounted front. Okay, so that's cool. Now, let's look at ranged. So we have the stats for ranged here. And again, we see Zhou Yu doing very well on the range attack. Okay, beating out Dewey here, who is the second highest. So he's good on range attack. On range defense, looking very good, okay? Range HP, very good as well. So, Zhou Yu doing very well on siege, okay on mounted, very well on range. So far, he's doing very good, okay? Now, let's look at the stats for ground. Right, so we have the stats for ground here. And of course, as you can expect, Isaac Brooke and Leonidas are kicking everyone out of the water on this one, okay? Ground is their thing, so you can see that their stats are very high there. However, we look at Zhou Yu, okay? Ground attack, very good, all right? Pretty decent, especially when you compare to the other ones. Ground defense, he's okay, all right? Takenaka looking good here, but Zhou Yu not doing bad. Ground HP, okay as well. So, Zhou Yu, as the main general, is okay on ground, doing very well on ranged. He's okay on mounted, and if we come over here, doing very well on siege. Looking at these stats, I would say that Zhou Yu is a pretty balanced world general. All right? I think like he's in the mold of Marshall and Dewey, but he's certainly looking better than both of them. Of course, the specialized generals, Takenaka, I think beating him out on siege, and Isaac and Leonidas are obviously beating him out on ground. But overall, he looks very good. Okay, so these are the stats when we are looking at him as the main general. Right. Now, of course, people are going to say that not everyone is going to use him as the main general because he's too expensive to ascend. So let's look at him as the assistant now compared with these other generals. Okay, so we have their stats here as assistants, and we're seeing something of a slightly different change here, okay? We see that comparing Takenaka and Zhou Yu, in my opinion, Zhou Yu is looking better as the assistant here than Takenaka is. I think that's because obviously Zhou Yu has the covenant, which we have to factor in, Takenaka doesn't. So that's coming into effect here. Of course, he's not as good as Leo for Siege, right? But other than that, yeah, he's doing very good. So he's still very good on Siege as the assistant. We look at Mounted over here. Again, not too bad. He's okay on Mounted. And I think if you compare him to the other generals, yeah, he's doing very well. Maybe not the best on some of the individual stats, but overall, pretty good, pretty balanced. Now, let's look at the range. Right, for the range, he's doing very good. He's doing very good. I think if you take out Dewey there, Zhou Yu is looking like the best option here for range assistant amongst the generals that we're looking at. Okay, good range attack, range defense, range HP. So he's looking very good here. And if we slide over to the left, okay, this is ground, right? So let's see the ground. Obviously, Isaac and Leonidas are cheating. Okay, this is their field. Ground is their thing. So these two are completely, in a different realm when it comes to ground. But when we look at the other guys, yeah, Zhou Yu, not bad on ground. Okay, you get some decent stats on ground, and he's okay. So I think we're saying pretty much the same thing. That this guy, Zhou Yu, is a balanced general, even as an assistant. And I think when you look overall at the stats for these generals, this guy, yeah, he's doing very good. So, for main general and assistant, Zhou Yu is pretty balanced. It's looking like you will get some decent buffs for all of your troop types, and we know that on defense, that's an important thing. Okay? So, if you have any questions about the stats that we're looking at, that's cool. If you want to see any of them and just take your time to assess, feel free to pause the video at any point. Now that we have gone through all of that, I think the verdict on Zhou Yu is that he's a very good general. The thing though is, because of how expensive this guy is, I think everybody is thinking that he's the second coming of Takenaka, which in my opinion is not really accurate. Takenaka is a siege-focused general. And after the comparison that we've gone through, in my opinion, he's still the best siege-based general in the game. However, Zhou Yu, in my humble opinion, is the best all-round general in the game. So he's not an exact replacement for Takenaka, in my opinion. Actually, I think that Zhou Yu is the upgraded version of William Marshall and George Dewey, because he is an all-round general that buffs all your troop types, and I think he's the natural upgrade to these two generals. So instead of thinking of him against Takenaka, I think it's better to think of him against Marshall and Dewey, and in that sense, he is a significant upgrade, no question about it. Now, should you go crazy and start spending so you can get this guy? If you want to use him as the main general, hell no. Okay? For the amount that Evony is asking for this guy right now, it is way too expensive. But of course, if cash is not your problem and you can spare with a few 20 grand or something like that, fine, go ahead and get him. But I think for most people, if you really want to get this guy as a main general, it's best to wait until sometime later when Evony makes him a bit cheaper, and then you can get more copies of him. Okay, pick up one copy if you want right now. If you want to use him as an assistant, he is a very good assistant. No question about it. But you need to be careful to make sure that he is the kind of assistant that you want. Because, like I said, he is more of a general sort of general. Okay? Pun intended. If, for example, you have like a siege-based keep, or you want to specifically buff your siege troops, he might not be the assistant for you. If you want to specifically buff ground troops, maybe there are better options. But as an all-round general, he will buff everything that you have, and yeah, might be very worthwhile for you. Now, in my opinion, I don't think you should specifically go out and spend because you want to get Zhou Yu. If you wanted to get him as an assistant, honestly, the way I see it is, if you were gonna spend the money anyway, buying packs for other stuff that you want to do, then Zhou Yu would be the extra bonus that you get. Square it how you want, but I think that's the way you should look at it. If you are going to spend, then you get this guy as a bonus. Now, in addition to Zhou Yu, we covered the other general that came out in this update, Gao Chang'an. And if you haven't seen it yet, here is the comparison for Gao Chang'an so you can see how good of a ground general he is. That's it for me, guys. Thank you very much. Aka signing out.